Big Beat Manifesto goes, big beats are the best, get high all the time.
Right. At the time, it felt like a much more all-encompassing philosophy.
Yeah. This is outrageous. This is contagious.
Ron, you cretin! You're a fuckhead! That's what you are! A fucking shithead!
It was a joke, Mark. I was joking. It was a Christmas joke.
Hey everybody, welcome to the L Dude Brothers podcast, episode 0, our introductory episode, and we're going to be discussing all things Mitchell and Webb, but first we're going to be focusing on Peep Show. My name's Lee, and I'm here with my friend Sean.
Hey guys, what's up? My name's Sean.
Yep, that would be Sean. And Sean, how you been this week?
Oh, been pretty good, just between work and school and getting ready for this podcast, not doing a whole bunch.
Yeah,
what about you?
Pretty much the same. I'm excited to finally start this podcast for sure, because it's been kind of a long time in the works, and kind of been working hard on it. But I mean, just to recap kind of what's been going on in the world this week, we've got the new baby hippo at the Cincinnati Zoo.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, new baby hippo. It was unexpected. Took its first steps today.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I was glad to hear that it actually got a chance to start walking before they decided to shoot it. So that's always positive. Good for Cincinnati, hometown, Queen City. What's up?
Yeah, Cincinnati's had kind of Cincinnati's been in the news more this year with everything with Harambe than I think I ever hear about Cincinnati.
Yeah, well, when you got a bunch of failing sports teams and rest in peace, Harambe. That's all I'm going to say as a bitter Bengals fan. What else you got, Sean?
Not much. Just did you watch the Super Bowl at all? Because I know that was pretty much what my Sunday night was dominated by.
I did, and afterwards I was left feeling a little bit deflated.
Yeah.
As somebody, I'm going to be moving to Georgia here at some point here soon, and I was kind of hoping for a Falcons win, but just kind of put the pin in the balloon there, kind of deflated.
Yeah. I definitely feel very deflated and cheated and spied upon.
Yeah.
Hang
on. There's something wrong with my headset.
Okay. Do you want to start over?
That was a Belichick joke.
Oh yes. Oh jeez. Oh my God. Yeah. I should have.
No, that's.
Yeah. No. I'm gonna leave that in because that was a pure funny moment with my complete confusion. Yeah, so that's staying in.
That's quality banter right there. So.
Yeah, that is top tier banter. Yeah. I knew. As soon as I don't even remember which commentator it was, start of the fourth quarter, Patriots were down by 19, and one of the commentators was just like, "Oh, down by 19 with a full quarter left to go. That's going to be a tough to make up." And it's just when you're, as much as I hate the Patriots, when you're dealing with Tom Brady, like 19 points isn't anything in 15-minute span.
No, absolutely not. It was as soon as Matt Ryan got that strip sack on him, the plane had crashed into the mountain. It was over. So
yeah, I definitely felt the same way. You texted me when that happened, and I remember thinking like, okay, it's just not a big deal. Let's just recover and prevent Tom Brady for winning. But yeah,
it's too much to ask for. It's but as a Bengals fan over here, and obviously you're a Chiefs fan, we're used to disappointment. So it's much like Mark in Peep Show, and in the words of David Mitchell, Atlanta Falcons, that's a bad miss. So let's move on to talking about Peep Show. We're going to go ahead and introduce the series here, kind of give you a little rundown, a little bit of a backstory on it, because if you haven't heard of it before, it is kind of a strange show to watch, just because it's filmed in a very certain way. The mix of humor is a little bit different than what you normally would see on American TV. So Peep Show is a British comedy series, and it aired for 9 seasons on Channel 4. From 2003 to 2015, there were some breaks in there. They didn't necessarily do it every year. And it's the longest-running comedy show in Channel 4 history. The show's unique because it has a first-person point of view. So whenever you're looking watching the show, you're watching it from the point of view of one of the characters. It's not just, a random camera somewhere off in the room or anything like that, which, I can imagine is probably a challenge to act that way.
For me, that's one of the things it's why sometimes I feel super immersed in the show, because you're seeing it from very rarely do you actually see, like a bigger picture. I like that you get to see through characters' eyes and you don't necessarily get to see everything that's going on around it.
Absolutely. And I just think it would be extremely difficult to try to deliver some of these lines just staring into a camera, trying to be animated, just staring directly into the lens of a camera. So
yeah, especially some of the scenes where they like have to kiss the camera or like really get close to the camera. I can't imagine how.
As a viewer, those scenes just I can't do them. There's something about that view where the point of view falls apart for me, and it just gets a little bit weird.
Yeah, but I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but some of the I think that the reason that they feel so awkward, especially some of the first person like Mark sex scenes feel so awkward, is because you're supposed to try to feel what it's like to be in that situation,
Yeah, no, I agree. And the point of view aspect was actually inspired by a Channel 4 documentary called Being Caprice, which I've never seen, but certainly if we find it, we will talk about it.
I definitely think we should. It's about a British model, I believe.
Very nice. So just going over the main characters and cast for season 1. Main characters, we have David Mitchell as Mark Corrigan, and Mark is kind of your neurotic, classic straight man, but kind of idolizes the other main character, Jeremy's bad side, and they riff off each other really well. It's kind of a yin and yang, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Any thoughts on Mark?
Mark is probably one of my favorite characters in the entire series, and I think he's one of the more consistent characters throughout the show, and he has some of the best monologues in the entire series. He's very awkward. He's a very awkward guy to be around, and a lot of times when I'm trying to decide if I want to do something, I ask myself, is this something Mark would do? And if the answer is yes, then I just don't do it.
Yeah. Like, is this social suicide? Would Mark do this? Basically, same question.
Yes.
On the other hand, like I said, the yin to the yang there, we got Robert Webb as Jeremy Osborne, who is, as a self-described wastoid. He's kind of like he really wants to be an EDM musician, but just never really kind of gets there because he's too busy doing drugs and whatnot. But very chaotic, very kind of like alt counterculture, sort of. Any other words to describe Jeremy?
I think that Jeremy is not as counterculture as he makes people believe. I think that he sees this idealized version of himself that's like that, but I think that Jeremy really, Jeremy is a funny character, and he definitely drives a lot of the plots in a lot of the episodes.
He definitely does. I mean, you can tell he has a conscience, ultimately. He is counterculture, but he has a conscience, I would say. Maybe.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that might be a good way to describe him. You also, season 1, we have Olivia Colman, who plays Sophie Chapman, which is, in season 1, actually, for the beginning of the series, pretty much, is Mark's main love interest. Very straightforward, office-working, kind of regular lady. Not really a whole lot to say about Sophie for season 1.
No, I definitely agree with that. She is by far probably the character that changes the most throughout the series. She's she's a great foil to Mark, especially in the early seasons. She's a fantastic foil to Mark, and just really some funny parts with her, and Olivia Colman is amazing at playing playing off of David Mitchell's awkward interactions with her.
Yeah, and again, when you say the evolution of her character, she did a really good job evolving that character over the course of the series. Speaking of foils and dastardly deeds, we've got Matt King, who plays Super Hands. What do you say about Super Hands? I mean, where do you even start?
He's such a funny character. He has a couple episodes that are very centric on him, but one of my favorite things is that I never feel like that he's overused, or that he goes back to the same well too many times. He's got very, very smart. He's got very, very smart sense of humor, and a lot of the jokes I knew were supposed to be funny, so I would just laugh because I knew, hey, this is a joke, but I didn't really understand the reason behind the humor. However, for this podcast, in just kind of an attempt to make sure that I was understanding stuff right, I started looking up a lot of the meanings for some of his more obscure jokes, and then I just was laughing uproariously when I kind of realized what he was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you looked that up because I never had, and it made a lot of the things his character does make a lot more sense, and he's a lot smarter of a guy than he comes off as. He's actually, some of his jokes are extremely highbrow, which you wouldn't expect. He's basically just the wild card of the series. If Mark is the angel on Jeremy's shoulder, Super Hands is the devil. Absolutely. And so many times, Jeremy, it gets interesting. But moving on, David Mitchell and Robert Webb actually originally met in college. They were rehearsing for a stage production of Cinderella, which I find kind of interesting. I can only imagine what Mitchell and Webb would have been doing auditioning for Cinderella.
Yeah, I guess they both would have been trying to play Prince Charming, but oh man, I just can't imagine either of them playing that role.
No, absolutely not. I mean, Mark committing social suicide on stage. Oh, here's your glass slipper. Oh no.
That's not true, because Mark is definitely the kind of person that would kiss a sleeping woman if he knew he could get away with it.
Well, but I think Jeremy actually does. So I guess you could say that about both characters. But they helped write and develop the show, but it's chiefly written by Jesse Armstrong and Sam Bain. Originally, the concept for the series was to do kind of a Beavis and Butthead style sitcom, where the characters are just kind of commenting on whatever's on TV. Due to various budget reasons, the concept evolved into the existing show because I guess the BBC and the way that it works, it was going to be too expensive for them to pay for the rights to all those TV shows. And I think in season 1 you see a little bit of that commentary happen.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, I definitely agree that it has that definitely kind of Beavis-y and Butthead kind of feel to it.
Yeah, there's a few instances where they're just watching TV and it's really funny. It is a departure from Beavis and Butthead. It's basically just highbrow Beavis and Butthead. So in 2008, Spike TV actually asked Robert Wyde from Curb Your Enthusiasm to direct a pilot of Peep Show, but adapted for American TV. But it just never happened, and that just comes from a long line of British TV failures in America.
Is that that horrible one that's on YouTube?
I believe it is. I think I'm not sure if there was a whole. I think it was the IT Crowd with Joel McHale that ended up on YouTube.
No, I think there's one episode of the American Peep Show that's on YouTube. It's terrible, but here's the deal. If we get 100 likes on our Facebook page, we will review the one lone episode of American Peep Show. It's on YouTube, and it is god awful.
Yeah, it's gonna be a burial. So we have that. We have the IT Crowd with Joel McHale. IT Crowd, very funny British show. Very entertaining. Ran for 5 series, I believe.
Something like that. I've never watched it, but it's one of those shows that's on my list of shows to watch because it sounds like it'd be right up my alley.
It's extremely good. And then also in the same boat we have American Top Gear, which aired on History Channel. I don't know if it's still airing, but Jesus, was it bad. I mean,
yeah, it was not good.
It's absolutely terrible. They took everything about Top Gear and just completely dismantled it. I mean, the show, and I don't even know where they went wrong because the show felt the same.
It's just the banner. It's just the banter between the three hosts. I mean,
the host didn't click.
yeah, the hosts definitely just don't click with each other. It's hard.
Yeah, and on a British TV note, actually, the Grand Tour just wrapped up its first series on Amazon. Very great stuff. If you have Amazon Prime, definitely check it out. It's definitely a return to the old Top Gear, with the three guys doing their thing. So, since Peep Show, Mitchell and Webb done a lot of other work together. They've done radio shows, podcasts, a book, other shows like Mitchell and Webb Look was their sketch show. David Mitchell appears on a lot of panel shows. They've done a live tour, doing just sketches pretty much on stage. It kind of goes along the same lines of the Mitchell and Webb Look, which we'll be talking about in later podcasts. They've also done a full-length film, which I believe is still available on Netflix. I believe it's called Magicians.
Something like that. I haven't watched it yet. But going back to something you were saying a little earlier, Mitchell and Webb Look, their sketch show is very funny. Has some very, very great sketches, and one of the things that really always makes me laugh in those sketches is when it's Robert Webb that plays the straight man to David Mitchell's kind of crazy guy.
Yeah, they definitely flip the roles a little bit. Actually, there's one sketch in particular, if you remember, where they play the same character. I think it's Sherlock Holmes. Because they were arguing over who was going to play Sherlock Holmes and who was going to play Watson, so they just kept switching back and forth.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's like a great example of that, where Jeremy, or rather Robert Webb is the straight man, David Mitchell goes crazy, and it's comedy gold. They just work so well together in every possible way. Everything they do just meshes really well, and that's just so important. So David Mitchell is, I think I'd already mentioned, he does appear as a guest panelist pretty often on BBC. There's a show called QI, which stands for Quite Interesting, hosted by Stephen Fry, one of the biggest panel shows in the UK. Very informative, very interesting, and it kind of gives you a look into the mind of David Mitchell as being, a well-educated, well-read. I mean, he's a really smart guy.
Yes, I mean, you can every interview with him that I've ever heard, I always am impressed with how well he presents himself and how good he comes across. And he's a great, always good on those British panel shows, and he does a ton of them. And
additionally, he also has a couple of YouTube channels out there where he's done a couple short series on YouTube. A lot of it is just him ranting and complaining about, whatever's going on in the news, but they are pretty entertaining as well. You can check those out on YouTube. And at some point, we'll make sure we post a link up to all this material that we're referencing here. Mitchell and Webb were also the stars of the I'm a Mac campaign in the UK, and I bet you can't guess who played who.
I'm going to say David Mitchell was the Mac, the PC, and David Webb was the Mac.
Well, Robert Webb,
Yes, Robert Webb, sorry.
Yeah, so, perfect casting. And they took a lot of heat for it initially, because fans of Peep Show and some of their other properties were like, oh, well, they're selling out. This isn't, the kind of stuff you guys usually do. And they were just like, look, the opportunity came up, we did it. You can't blame them. Because, in the UK, television salaries aren't what they are in the US. You don't hear about Jerry Seinfeld getting, like $9 million an episode or whatever back in the 90s. Like, that just doesn't happen over there. So, but I thought it was great casting. Those commercials are also available on YouTube. And through all this stuff on the BBC, because it's a smaller community of actors and writers and things like that, you see a lot of crossover with the same group of actors.
It's very funny, and Olivia Colman, for those of you who don't know, she went on to go do a show with David Tennant from Doctor Who that was on Netflix. That was excellent.
Yeah, and pretty much the entire cast of Peep Show pops up in Mitchell and Webb Look at one point or another. And it's more than just like a cameo thing too. Like, hey, look at Sophie. It's not, it's actually entertaining. They write proper parts for them, and it's just, there's a lot of crossover. Other shows like Whites, I don't know if you've ever seen Whites, was a BBC show. I think it ran for 2 series. Izzy Suddy, who's in later seasons of Peep Show, plays alongside Matt King in that show. It's about a restaurateur, but very entertaining. We'll probably take a look at that one. We kind of want to make sure as we move along here through the seasons of Peep Show that we take a look at some of the other just gems of British TV that are available to view and are kind of in the Mitchell and Webb universe.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can find all this stuff so easily online. I mean, for the show that we're going to be reviewing, Peep Show, the whole thing is on Hulu. You can also go to Amazon and you can purchase the entire DVD set from there. You can go onto the Channel 4 website. You can purchase the DVDs. Most of the really good Mitchell and Webb look sketches are all on YouTube. And yeah, I mean, it's great how accessible all this stuff is.
It is, and we'll post some affiliate links and things like that if you would click those and take a browse through Amazon to get all your Mitchell and Webb stuff, because it is important to support the writers and actors that you like and that you enjoy, so that they can keep creating content. It's especially with the disparity between American and British TV, where they really don't make much. So let's help out all these writers and actors. But there is a lot of crossover and very entertaining. Definitely check it out. So moving on, let's talk about season 1. Season 1 started in 2003, and initially, I watched season 1. I thought it was good enough to continue watching the show, but as you get further on into the series, at least for me personally, I didn't really care for season 1 a whole lot.
I agree. It's there's some gems in there, including each season is only 6 episodes, so even having 3 kind of lackluster episodes in one season will kind of spoil a season. But there's one pretty good episode in season 1. The rest of it is just weird. The characters act weird. It doesn't have its kind of iconic opening theme song. There's a lot of stuff about it that's different.
Absolutely, and I think it was a good intro to the characters, and there are some golden moments. I believe it's the 3rd episode of the first season is one of the best that they ever did, but it was a diamond in the rough.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's a weird season.
It's a weird season, and but if when you go to watch it, assuming that you haven't already seen it, definitely it just takes a little bit of an open mind. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it my first time through, but when you compare it to the rest of the series and Mitchell and Webb's body of work, it just doesn't quite stand up. But it is still funny. It is still entertaining. Highly recommend it, and hope that you'll stick with us for all the episode analysis. We're going to do a full episode analysis for every single episode of the series. Commentary, we're going to look at writing credits, things like that, see if we can find differences between the episodes, and those will start coming at you every Wednesday real soon. So
we're looking at 54 episodes of the show, plus we'll do the American Peep Show if we get 100 likes on our Facebook page. And yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about the show with you. You were the one that got me into it. Basically, what happened? Lee and I were hanging out, and he said, "Hey, have you seen the show?" He said, "Hey, have you seen the show before?" And I hadn't. And you showed me the first. I think it was one of the season 2 episodes. I can't remember. I don't exactly remember, but
right.
You just showed me one episode, and it was just, as soon as I watched it, I just super identified with both characters and just wanted to watch more, and ended up watching at that point in time what was the entire series in probably the span of like 2 weeks.
Yeah, which is real easy to do with the 6 episode series. And for those that aren't super familiar with British television is written for different reasons because it's funded by the British government and licensing fees and things. There's a whole structure to it, but it's not advertising centric like American TV is. So take a show like an American TV show, like we can take one of both. The Office. So The Office was originally a British TV show. Again, short series. They told their story, they wrapped it up, and they moved on. The American Office, though, did sort of the same thing, except their story was done after 6 seasons. But then they kept it going for another 3 seasons that were just absolute garbage. So the British TV series try to get to the point, tell the story that they need to tell, and they're done. There's not dragging it out for the purpose of collecting more advertising money.
Right, and you can definitely tell that. I by far do not think that at any point in its lifespan, Peep Show was a ratings juggernaut, but because of the structure over there, they were able to give a show that had a, if you think about a show like My So-Called Life, that's a cult classic now, but at the time just wasn't really appreciated, and it wasn't until it went off the air that people were like, oh, that's a pretty good show. But I feel like Peep Show may have ended up being like that kind of a show if it had been an American production. You maybe would have got 1-2 seasons tops, and then that was it.
Right, I agree. That in each episode of the British series, there's a ton of content. There really is just a lot to take in every episode, which is why we thought, it'd be great to have a podcast and go through and do all these analysis for you. So hopefully you'll stick with us and enjoy it. Like I said, should be seeing the first couple episodes roll out the next couple of weeks here. I believe we're going to be posting them every Wednesday.
Yes, that's correct.
Wednesdays.
Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Just kind of depends on when we're both busy guys, so depends on when we get a chance to record. But on that topic, I gotta say I'm looking very forward to starting this show with you.
Absolutely,
and we're going to
buddy.
be starting with season 1, episode 1, which is called Warring Factions. Kind of introduces a couple of the key characters. Also kind of goes into one of the recurring themes of the series, which is there's usually one sort of like season-long character that drives the plot and then will kind of fade away in later seasons. But you get to meet Tony, and she's a great character.
She is, and I think Warring Factions as an episode title being the first episode title, I mean, it's kind of the whole show in a way. It's
yes,
kind
I
of,
would.
it's kind of Jeremy and Mark at odds with each other, and it's fantastic. So
yes, I definitely agree with that.
Absolutely. So, but that's all we have for you this time. Hope you enjoyed the introductory episode 0, I guess we're referring to it as. And just want to give a shout out today to our buddy Luke from the Jay and Luke Are Bored podcast. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday to Luke.
Yeah, happy birthday, Luke. You're a good dude.
Absolutely good guy. If you haven't heard that podcast, it's pretty entertaining. You should go check that out as well. And until next time, this is the L Dude Brothers saying, and we'll catch you next time.